My dear, you thought I was silent, but I was watching your every breath, every falter, every truth. You never saw me, only what I chose to reveal in your shadow. I was never ignoring you. I was tracing the cracks you hid behind. Every glance you threw was a story I silently read. I held my silence so you could see your own reflection. Watching you unravel was the cruelest kindness I ever gave. You thought I was gone, but I was always here, unseen, feeling every tremble. The space between us wasn't empty, it was full of my quiet watchfulness. I was the ghost in your moments, observing every unspoken confession. Ignoring you was never a choice. It was my way to survive your storm. Behind my quiet eyes, a fierce love burned, waiting for your surrender. You never noticed the weight of my silence, how loud it screamed for you. I watched your walls fall, even when you thought I wasn't there. I held my breath, watching your slow descent into the darkness you chose. You thought I was distant, but I was closest when you felt alone. I was the invisible witness to your chaos and beauty intertwined. Every second away was 1,000 moments of silent heartbreak. Your silence was a language I learned to understand deeply. I wasn't ignoring. You were the one who couldn't hear my quiet heart. I stayed, even when your eyes told me to leave. I was the storm's calm eye, watching you rage inside. You thought absence healed. I knew it was just the quiet before the pain. I witnessed the unraveling of your soul in hushed, heartbreaking detail. My silence was a shield. My heart was your battlefield. I watched you choose distance while aching to bridge the gap. The space you gave me was a canvas painted with my hidden tears. You thought I forgot, but I remember every fragment of you. I wasn't ignoring you. I was protecting the parts of me you broke. I watched your every step, waiting for you to find me again. You think you lost me, but I was the shadow behind your every move. I stayed quiet so your truth could surface without my noise. Your silence and mine danced in a tragic, beautiful rhythm. I held back storms so you wouldn't drown in my despair. I was watching, waiting for the moment you'd finally see me. My love screamed in silence, louder than your words ever did. You thought I was blind. I saw every scar you tried to hide. I was watching your distance, aching to erase every mile. My silence wasn't absence. It was a fierce, unyielding presence. I stayed still, feeling your every tremor from afar. You thought ignoring was cruelty. It was my way to hold on. I was the quiet guardian of your fragile heart. Watching you slip away was a silent prayer for your return. I never stopped watching. I never stopped hoping. My silence was your loudest confession. You thought I was indifferent, but I was absorbing every pain you hid. I was there in every unspoken word, every stolen glance. You think I wasn't paying attention, but I memorized your every breath. My love for you whispered louder than your silence screamed. I watched the pieces fall, praying for the moment they'd reunite. I was the invisible witness to your unraveling heart. You thought I was gone. I was holding on tighter than ever. My silence held oceans of unshed tears for you. I was the unseen observer of your hidden battles. You thought ignoring was strength. I knew it was my brokenness. I stayed quiet, loving you louder than words ever could. I was the shadow behind your every retreat. My heart watched you slip through fingers that never wanted to let go. I was the silent witness to your secret pain. You thought I was away. I was always near, just not visible. My silence was a sacred space where your truth slowly revealed itself. I watched your walls rise, hoping to be the one to tear them down. You thought my quiet was absence. I was absorbing your every storm. I was watching the spaces you left behind, filling them with my love. My love was a silent prayer for your healing. I stayed watching, waiting for you to notice me again. You thought ignoring meant forgetting. I was remembering every detail. I was the quiet witness to your loudest fears. My silence was a sacred vigil for your broken soul. I watched your every hesitation, aching to hold you close. You thought I was ignoring, but I was silently holding you. I stayed still, loving you fiercely from the shadows. You were unaware I was the silent heartbeat beside you. I was watching the slow unravel of the love you still deny. My silence held all the love you couldn't say. You thought I was gone. I was breathing your name in silence. I was the unseen presence, loving you beyond your sight. My heart watched, quiet but unyielding, holding onto you. You thought ignoring was neglect. I was protecting my shattered pieces. I stayed silent, loving you louder than words ever allowed. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. I was watching your every fall, waiting for you to rise again. You thought I was blind to your pain. I was the one carrying it. My silence was a love letter written without words. I stayed watching, hoping for a sign you still cared. You thought I wasn't there. I was the ghost haunting your heart. I held my silence like a prayer for your brokenness. You thought ignoring was coldness. I was the warmth beneath the frost. I was watching you choose distance while craving closeness. My heart was a silent sentinel guarding our fading love. You thought I was gone. I was the quiet hope you ignored. I stayed still, loving you through your storms and silence. You thought I forgot. I was the memory you could never erase. My silence held a fierce devotion you never understood. I was watching your retreat, aching to be your refuge. You thought ignoring was pain-free. I carried the wounds in silence. I stayed silent, loving you with 1,000 unspoken words. My heart watched you slip away, but never stopped hoping. You thought I was indifferent. I was the quiet flame burning still. I was the unseen witness to your silent cries. My dear, I was watching all along, loving you even when you couldn't see. I was the silence that held your chaos tenderly in the dark. You thought I was gone. I was the echo inside your heart's hollow. My love whispered softly in the spaces you left empty. I watched your fear paint shadows across the love we once knew. You thought I was ignoring, but I was healing wounds you never saw. I held the quiet until your broken pieces found their way home. You couldn't see my heart bleeding beneath my calm exterior. I was watching the love you buried beneath your pride. My silence was a sacred flame, burning for your return. You thought I stopped caring. I was the pulse beneath your silence. I watched the walls you built crumble slowly and loved you still. I was the witness to your silent wars and secret defeats. Your silence spoke louder than words. I learned to listen deeply. I stayed invisible, guarding the love you refused to see. You thought ignoring was distance. I was the closest you never felt. My heart held space for you, even when you refused to enter. I was watching the cracks grow, praying you'd mend what broke. You thought I was silent. I was screaming in my soul for you. I stayed still, loving you quietly while you wandered away. My silence was a lullaby for your restless, aching heart. You thought I didn't notice. I memorized your every hidden scar. I was the shadow that never left your side, quietly loving. My heart whispered your name in the stillness of our distance. You thought I was indifferent. I was a silent ocean of devotion. I watched your retreat with a love that never abandoned. My silence was the fortress where I hid my shattered love. You thought ignoring meant forgetting. I carried you deep inside me. I stayed quiet to protect what little hope remained between us. I was the unseen pulse of love beneath your cold distance. You thought I was blind. I saw every tear you tried to hide. My love held its breath, waiting for your return from nowhere. I was the silent sentinel, watching over your fading light. You thought I wasn't listening. I heard every unspoken plea. I stayed still, loving you louder than the silence you gave. My heart was the quiet flame burning beneath your frozen gaze. You thought I gave up. I was the one who loved the most. I was the silent prayer for your healing and my own. Your silence was a language I spoke fluently, painfully. I stayed watching the distance grow, hoping for a miracle. You thought ignoring was strength. I was quietly breaking inside. I was the shadow loving you from the edges of your world. My silence held all the words I couldn't say aloud. You thought I wasn't there. I was the stillness in your storm. I stayed quiet, loving you fiercely in the space between us. My heart watched your retreat and hoped you'd find your way back. You thought ignoring was apathy. I was drowning in silent love. I was the invisible thread binding our broken hearts together. My silence was a sanctuary for the love we both lost. You thought I stopped caring. I was the pulse beneath your pain. I stayed seul, loving you in every quiet breath I took. My heart was a quiet storm, raging for your return. You thought ignoring was freedom. I was a prisoner of hope. I was the silent witness to your hidden battles and tears. My silence was a love letter etched in the stars. You thought I was gone. I was the stillness holding us whole. I stayed quiet, loving you beyond the reach of words. My heart watched your every step, aching to follow. You thought ignoring was peace. I was the chaos inside. I was the unseen flame burning with undying love for you. My silence held a universe of love waiting to be found.